Hello, Socorro.
Hi, how you doing?
I am good. How about yourself?
Good. Welcome back to episode 4 of the Astrology of the Underworld podcast. I am one of your hosts, Coco Carrillo Lopez. This is my husband slash co-host.
I am Chris. I am the drummer of the
Band.
Sacramento hardcore band, Eyes Out, drummer for sure.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, the song that you hear in the beginning of the podcast, that is from Eyes of the Assailant, which is a song on our upcoming album, Satiate the Blade,
It's really good.
coming out in May.
It's really good. Okay, so before we tell everybody who we're covering today, I want to tell a story.
Sure, we like stories.
Okay. So this is a true story about something that happened when I was in high school and into my early 20s. When I say we, I mean my mom, myself, and a person that I went to high school with, Michelle. She was like a sister to me. We all lived together in this house in a place in California. I want to say like maybe after about a year, we started smelling cigarette smoke in this one area of our house. And so we thought that maybe the house was haunted. It never happened during the day, always at night, but there was no like real like consistent pattern. So it wasn't like someone who lived near us like smoked cigarettes, because it would be, we would smell it one night, then we wouldn't smell it for 6 months, then we'd smell it for 2 weeks straight
It wasn't
at
like
different times.
you had a neighbor that was being clockwork, like at
No.
9 o'clock at night, he always
No.
came out and had his one
No.
cigarette for the day.
And no, and the people who lived so in the room where we smelled the cigarette smoke all the time, there were huge sliding glass doors that looked out into our backyard, and we had a relatively large backyard. But the people who lived behind us were in their 90s, and they were barely mobile. So it definitely was not them. They would have been the only people near enough to our house and in that area that would have been doing that. And we knew that it wasn't them. Another thing that was happening was we would get these prank calls all the time. And myself and Michelle, the person that was living with me and my mother at the time, we thought that they had to be someone from our high school.
Like high school prank calls?
Yeah, like-
Something that we did in the 80s all the time.
Oh my gosh, all the
Yeah.
time. We were always
Yeah.
like prank calling, and it was really fun too, actually. They were, I'm going to kill you, I'm watching you, heavy breathing. And
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
yeah, but we didn't take it seriously because we thought it was somebody that we went to high school with. So I would scream things like fuck off or get a life or whatever, and then I would hang up because I was especially really rebellious too at the time. So
Because they're Gen Xers, man. It
yeah,
seems like
we
they're intimidated.
didn't. Yeah, it's exactly
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So fast forward to recent times. Oh, and I had heard about the person that we're about to talk about between then and now, but we didn't know who it was. We just knew that somebody was committing these crimes. And when it came out who it was, I found out that he lived in my neighborhood where I was growing up, and I was like, oh my God, that's really scary. And then they played the recording of him leaving messages on the answering machines of his victims. And all of a sudden, I realized that I had spoken to this person before, and that it was Joseph James DeAngelo.
Or he wanted to kill you, he just never got around to it.
I think he was too old, but also I also believe that my little dog Chulita was a lifesaver because she barked at everything, and she was always barking at like the windows in our backyard, which we were always like, why is she barking back? So I immediately called Michelle and I called my mom, and I was like, you guys have to hear this, it's insane. And they heard it and they were like, oh my God, that is him. And one of the reasons why we recognized it was because the heavy breathing was so exaggerated. And I remembered that from when I was in high school. The heavy breathing was so exaggerated that it was like silly to me. So that is who we are covering today, Joseph James DeAngelo, the Golden State Killer.
Yeah, real quick, I also add that what was interesting was you told me this, like when he got arrested and stuff, which is actually what has been now a number of years. He got apprehended in 2018, so that's already 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So what was interesting was when you first told me the story, I never questioned it, had no reason not to believe you.
It's
or
hard to
anything.
believe something like
Right,
that.
I never did. And then
But I
years
understand if you would.
later, years later, because we cleared that, we had a storage unit.
Oh, that's
And
right.
we had cleared out the storage unit and just brought everything here.
Yeah.
And so you were going through stuff and you
Yep.
found a bunch of old diaries. There's an entry about getting another call with a heavy breathing and saying a
Yep.
bunch of stupid bullshit. That was written, that had to be what?
When I was in high school.
So like 90.
Somewhere between 89 and 93.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So crazy.
I said my mom and Michelle, they both were freaking out too, because what that has to do with the cigarette smoke is he used to stand or hide outside of people's windows and chain smoke and just watch them like a creepy guy. So I'm sure most people know who Joseph James DeAngelo is and what he did.
So he
but
goes
we can
by,
recap some
absolutely.
things.
So he goes by a couple names. What's funny is that all these crimes were happening and they had different names throughout the years because he was active from, let's see here, 1974 to 1986.
Yes, and by the way, really fast, if I've showed you this as well on a map. I've shown Chris where my house was in Citrus Heights and where he lived in Citrus Heights, and also all of the rapes that had happened, they were all in a circle around where I lived. Not that didn't have anything to do with me, but I think that was just like his area, and that all of those were happening like way before I lived there. But still, he was busted where I lived and then another weird synchronicity too is my ex-business partner, her dad was actually the judge.
The judge at his trial.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That was weird.
yeah, he was like coming and going with his crimes there for a while, and he lived a number of years in the Bay Area, but he always had that Citrus Heights home. And so when he did get arrested, even though he had spent a lot of time, I think in the Bay or maybe Southern California, and did some crimes there, in his later years, he never sold the Citrus Heights home, and he actually stayed or lived there.
Yeah.
By the time he got arrested.
So those are all the other names?
Yeah, so you had at first when these early crimes happened, they're not knowing that it was the same person, but it was in Visalia, that's pretty much Central California, right?
Yeah, it's close to like Modesto.
Modesto.
Or no, sorry, Reedley. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So his first name was the Visalia Ransacker. And then he
would go into people's houses and while he was raping them or whatever, he would go through their refrigerators and eat their food and their drawers.
Yeah, this one says that it was the training ground, was the East Area Rapist was Visalia. So saying that that's where he started it, and it was dating back as early as May 73, during which he plunged to death several family dogs.
Bludgeoned,
There we go.
Yeah.
These people just don't give a rat's ass about animals. Why would they care about humans? Over a period of 20 months. And then in late April, they finally, so these crimes happened in the 70s in Visalia, and they weren't able to connect them until the DNA in 2018, late of 2018. So it's like when they caught this guy, they were looking for the East Area Rapist who had a certain amount of crimes.
And then they found out
he's also the Visalia Ransacker.
All around California.
Yeah, he was also called the, East Area Rapist, East Side Rapist, East Bay Rapist, because he did do some stuff in the East Bay. Decreed Bed Killer, Diamond Knot Killer, Original Night Stalker. Now, he was the Night Stalker, and then years later, you had Richard Ramirez, who was the Night Stalker. And so now, when he became the Night Stalker, now this guy is the original
He
Night
definitely
Stalker.
was a night stalker because again, and it was really weird too, because sometimes we would smell that cigarette smoke night after night at different times too, and we'd be like, oh, the ghost is really active right now, but it never made any sense to us. And now we know that there were probably periods of times when he would obsess over watching us.
Right. So, yeah, very creepy.
Yeah. Okay. So can I talk about his chart just a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk
go
just
ahead.
about early life and get his birth date in there and what he is and
yeah.
stuff. So he was born November 8th, 1945. We don't have a time, but he was born in Bath, New York, to his parents, and his dad was a sergeant in the United States Army. He's Italian. Let's see. 1959 to 1960, he attended Mills Junior High School in Rancho Cordova, California. So if For those of you who are not familiar with Sacramento, you have Sacramento, the capital of California, and then you have all these suburbs around Rancho Cordova, Citrus Heights, Roseville, Elk Grove,
Rockland.
all kinds of little other suburbs. And he went to school in Rancho Cordova, got his GE certificate, and then it says here that during this time, prosecutors reported DeAngelo committed burglaries, mail theft, and tortured and killed animals during his teenage years. I just, heads up, if you see someone that's a teenager torturing animals, they're going to be a killer.
They need help,
They
actually.
need help. They need help.
They need help developing their ego in a different way.
If you see that, don't ignore it.
Yeah, so
For sure.
can
Let's
I-
do
okay,
it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I freaked out about his birth chart because, do you remember that night?
I do.
Because everything that he did is spelled out pretty much in his birth chart. Don't have a birth time, but I made him a Capricorn rising. And the reason for that is because that puts his Mars-Saturn conjunction in Cancer in the 7th house. I believe that, he's a Capricorn rising because that would mean that Saturn would be ruling his chart. So everything that he is experiencing in life is through that Saturnian archetypal lens. It's how he's meeting the world, basically. And he has a Mars-Saturn conjunction in the 7th house in Cancer. So what I was thinking when I saw that was like, there's some sort of internal turmoil. And then when you have Pluto in the 8th house, which is about power and also sex, it has everything to do with sex in the 8th house. And so there is some sort of thing that he was obsessing over, which had to do with sex and bondage. That's Mars-Saturn conjunction in the 7th house. In the Cancer is in the home. Cancer is the home. 7th house is about relationships. He would attack couples. And so then that is squaring he's got a 4-planet stellium in Libra: Venus, Jupiter, Chiron, and Neptune. And if he is a Capricorn rising, which again, 99.9% sure that he is, that would mean that he is lying, Neptune, about who he is out in the public, but he's putting on this face, that's the 10th house, of being a police officer, a person of justice, a person who is out to help people in the community. That's the face that he has on, but Neptune is the key here because it's showing that it's not true. It's actually a facade.
It's like a deception, right?
Yeah, it's a total deception. And then he has his sun in Scorpio. So that means that Pluto is ruling the house where his sun is in. And
Which
so
is the 11th house, right?
In this chart, yeah. Which means that his identity is bound up with this secretive sexual thing that he's actually turning inward, because rather than him enjoying kink safely or getting help, if it is a psychopathy, he enacted these urges secretively. That's also Scorpio. That's under the surface. And it's all driven by his emotions, which is his moon. And the reason for that too is because he has a bowl configuration in his chart. So all of his planets are, except for one, are above the horizon. And the one that is not above the horizon is Uranus and Gemini in the 6th house. So creating chaos and disruption. And because it's making a trine to his Chiron, it's also like he has some stuff that he needs to heal, but rather than healing, he's causing more chaos and disruption.
Well, with that being said, so if this is, no, you don't have to apologize. That's what we're here for.
I know.
He's born with this pattern. I'm just trying to, as someone who's not an astrologer, I'm trying to connect the dots. And just like how DNA potentially works in the sense of you put someone in an environment depending on what their DNA is, nature, nurture, those types of things. So with all that being said, let's talk about some of him growing up in the environment.
Oh, okay.
To see how obviously everything you said and see what happened in his childhood, that maybe the two together.
Yeah.
So early family life and instability, military upbringing, He was the oldest of 4 children. His father was an army sergeant, and the family moved frequently between military bases in the U.S. and Germany. So how to establish a relationship.
So yes, and also really fast, that's very interesting because Moon, Mercury, and if he is Capricorn rising in the 12th house in Sagittarius, so I was wondering if he did a lot of long distance travel, and he did, right?
Yeah, it was in Germany.
Yeah, so
military bases and stuff.
that makes sense.
DeAngelo's father was often absent due to overseas deployments to Korea and Florida.
There's nothing in the 4th house.
And the 4th house is the father. See, that's what I'm saying. That's
empty.
fucking weird,
I
right?
know.
That's astrology good. There's literally nothing.
Right, because he's not
So
there.
it's like this guy was born to have an absent. Well,
Yeah.
let me say this, and let me just make sure I understand it right. It's not that he was born to have an absent father. He was put in an environment with an absent father.
And you can also have different planets in the 4th house that also reflect an absent father, but it gives you like a little bit more information. But with this, it's like literally it's just not there.
And we're putting these charts on our Instagram page, right?
Oh,
yeah. So we should have mentioned that in the other things.
These will be on
these
our Instagram.
But it's
and
so
TikTok.
weird because you can clearly see he has got nothing in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th house.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Oh, I'm right. Oh,
I mean, you're right. No, he doesn't have anything there.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And so it's just obvious.
And his Mercury is sextiling his Neptune. So remember Mercury Neptune? That we talked about that in the last podcast and the one before that too. That Mercury Neptune conjunction that Sackler had and that Freegard had. Instead of a conjunction, he has a sextile, but they're still interacting with one another. So he's spitting lies when he talks.
Yep.
About hidden things, which is in the 12th house, because he never developed emotionally because of issues with mom.
And eventually the dad left, as his mother worked long hours as a waitress, leaving a young DeAngelo responsible for domestic duties like cooking and caring for his younger siblings.
Ah, okay.
So now we're going to talk about trauma and abuse.
Okay.
Exposure to sexual violence at approximately the age of 9 or 10. And remember, he is the oldest of 4 children. So at the age of 9 or 10, which his sister was 7, while stationed in West Germany, DeAngelo reportedly witnessed 2 airmen raping his 7-year-old sister in a warehouse. That's just so fucking gross. That's so gross.
Okay, that makes so much sense now too, because so he has this bowl configuration in his chart, which means that there's a leading planet and a trailing planet, and the leading planet is his moon, so everything's driven by his emotions.
Right there, right in the 12th house.
Yes, exactly. And it happened, or the trigger was overseas, Sagittarius, which is long distance travel, and the midpoint of all of these planets is Chiron. So that's the focal point of this bowl configuration. So something traumatizing happened to him as a child and is driving his emotions, and his communication to hide everything, keep things hidden. And then he has this Saturn-Mars conjunction in Cancer. His Saturn is retrograde. So he's turning all of those feelings of being inadequate, insignificant, which there's talk about him not being very well endowed or whatever. And so that was like his issue. And so that had something to do with his feelings, again, because remember, the moon is the one that is leading this, feelings about power and with sexuality and being like in the spotlight, because it's in Leo. It's look at me, I'm doing this.
Interesting. So family members believe that event that happened, which is super sad, was the primary catalyst for his future sex crimes. Then parental physical abuse. His sister later testified that their father was physically abusive towards DeAngelo.
Okay.
Further reports suggested his mother also subjected the children to abuse.
Okay, so that makes perfect sense too. So Saturn also represents the father, and Saturn is conjunct his Mars, right? Like where there should have been like nurturance, it was like abuse, because Mars it wasn't drive. It's not like your Mars Saturn conjunction where you're driven to work out every single, it's driven structure. His is like dad abuse. And then mom did not protect him. So that's the leading planet.
Is this because this is in the conjunction between Mars and Saturn. Or is in the 7th house?
No, I feel like the way that manifested and that came about was that this Mars-Saturn conjunction that is opposing his ascendant in Capricorn, which is Saturn is the chart ruler. Remember, Saturn is the chart ruler. The seventh house is relationships, partnerships. And so he was doing this to partners. He was doing this to husbands and wives. Remember, he was breaking into their houses, and and Cancer is the home. It's where we feel nurtured and protected, and where we're the most vulnerable. So he was breaking into these people's houses when they were vulnerable, these couples, right, in the house, because of how bad he felt about himself, which is Saturn retrograde. And Saturn and Mars conjunct, he was abused by his father. It's all there. It's like crazy.
It's all there. Prosecutors revealed that by his teenage years in Rancho Cordova, California, DeAngelo was already committing burglaries, mail theft, and acts of vandalism. And it's hilarious that he ended up becoming a cop. Animal cruelty during his youth. He was known to kill animals. In one instant, he used a firecracker to kill an animal. What an asshole. Friends described him as having a volatile temper and frequently shouting matches with his mother.
Frequent shouting matches with his mother. Very interesting. So again, the moon basically leading all of this. There's something about trauma. Chiron is the focal point, and it all stems from mom. Mom didn't keep him protected. Yeah.
There's a picture of him as a cop.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that's interesting, I think we've talked about this before, is that back in 1970, he was engaged to a nursing student, Bonnie Jean Colwell, excuse me. She was at Sierra College, which I think that's in Rockland. Yep, yeah. It's still all Sacramento area. But she ended the relationship in 71 after he became manipulative and abusive, culminating in his demand that she help him cheat on an abnormal psychology test. Could you imagine that?
Yeah,
good call.
Again, like his Mercury sextiling his Neptune, so his words are, he's good with manipulating with his words.
Yep. And it said after the breakup, he attempted to force her to marry him by threatening her with a gun. So since we're talking about his relationship a little bit, I think there's another thing that is good to know with astrology, and we've talked about this before, that you can't really predict how someone's going to act.
No, and yeah, this was the one that we had talked about, remember, like I was saying, rather than him, we have free will, and rather than him enacting this in the most like vicious shadow way that he possibly could, you know, he could have been a spiritual leader, speaker. He's got, if he indeed does have Mercury in the 12th house, he could have helped people with understanding these power urges around sex, because he also has, again, Neptune, Chiron, Jupiter, and Venus in the 10th house. Yeah, it's also just very interesting, like how connected it all is. And how you can see these same aspects in someone else's chart. Like I was saying earlier, you have a Mars-Saturn conjunction in your chart, but the way that it comes about or manifests or how it is reflected in you is your daily rituals around working out, because it's the physical body and its structure, but then also the 9th house where yours is, you have limiting beliefs around things that have to do with spirituality and religion. So that's how it's reflected in you. But this guy, he could have been like, you know what, I've got this weird thing going on and I have these weird urges and maybe I need to talk to somebody about it, and then he gets educated about it, and then he can help others if Chiron is his focal point. But instead, he turned into a psychopath killer.
And it's funny, because not that it's funny, but obviously I'm not single, but if I was single, I'd be like, okay, give me your date of birth and your birth time. And I would look at the chart, not to say they're going to end up this way, but to be like, okay, what are they I'd probably come to you and be
Yeah.
like, dude, what does this mean?
Well,
They could do this, the light side or the dark side. This is what you look for.
and I would ask questions. I would be like, because that would be something that I
Is
would.
he torturing animals?
Well,
You probably go somewhere else.
Yeah, and you say torture animals, but he's got Uranus in Gemini in the sixth house. If he is a Capricorn rising, and the sixth house has to do with like our animal companions. Uranus is chaos and disruption. And then he's got that Mars-Saturn conjunction, which is always going to be a motivating factor if he is a Capricorn rising, because Saturn would be ruling his chart. So that would be like the way that the lens through which he sees the world. But instead of healing himself, the energy is reflected in the worst shadow ways that you can imagine. And this guy was so sneaky too. And that is no offense to Scorpios. I love Scorpios, but that is a characteristic. How sneaky he was is he was at a town hall meeting. No one knew that he was there. No one knew who he was. And one guy got up and was like, you know what? I don't believe that this guy is actually breaking into people's homes and with a husband there. How's that possible? I'd kick his ass or something like that. And 2 weeks later, they were his next victims, which means that he was at this town hall meeting, which means his face, like right here, 10th house, Venus, Jupiter, Chiron, Neptune, it's how he's relational, how he is with others is not accurate because of Neptune right there. And then again, his grandiose, I'm a cop, I'm Mr. Justice or whatever.
Right. What's interesting too, he was pretty short-lived as a cop because he got busted for stealing something. And once they found out he was a cop and it got to his people, he ended up getting fired, or maybe he left. But what's interesting is after all these crimes happened, this is of course before he got caught, he worked as a computer engineer and a cashier from 1990 until his retirement. From 1990, so that was probably in the 80s maybe, that's what they were suspecting working. But from 1990 till his retirement of 2017, so that's 27 years, which is pretty much a career. He worked as a truck mechanic at Save Mart Supermarkets Distribution Center in Roseville.
Interesting.
And what's also interesting is in 1996, he was arrested for failing to pay for gas, but the charge was dismissed. So it's gotta be so weird when you look back and it's, oh my God, we totally had this fucking guy, this serial rapist, murderer guy, for not paying gas. I mean, I get it. How are you gonna know? And that's the thing is with DNA, it helps so much. And what's interesting too is that it's got to be, I'm not promoting crime, but it's gonna be so hard to be a criminal these days because you could have a third or second cousin do, 23andMe or whatever it's called, or some kind of gene thing, and then they find DNA evidence, they just run it through that, and they're like, oh, we don't know who this is, but that's their third cousin, let's contact them.
I know, it's so crazy. I feel like, I just have to say, I feel like crime is a social construction, so I just feel like we need to restructure everything from the ground up, but regardless, and besides that, interesting thing about Saturn and Mars, right? So Saturn is it's binding, it's borders, it's structure, you can't move past this point because Saturn is right there, and he tied people up. And then with the Mars conjunction, the anger, the rage, whatever he had there in the home, Cancer, in the home with married couples, 7th house, all squaring his Venus relationships, his issues with relationships too.
And it's so crazy.
He was so pissed off. Remember the first woman that he tried to get to marry him and she wouldn't do it. So when he would other people, he would be screaming or yelling her name.
It's like some weird Mickey Mouse voice.
He would do it in this really high-pitched weird voice. Yeah.
So interesting. But yeah, he had starting in 76, as far as that they got him on, it was just every month. Rancho Cordova, Carmichael, Rancho Cordova, Carmichael, Citrus Heights, Rancho Cordova, Carmichael, Rancho Cordova, Citrus Heights, Carmichael, Sacramento, Citrus Heights, Carmichael, Sacramento, Arden Arcade. This is all in the 70s. And then he starts moving to the Bay, right? Where he's all of a sudden San Jose, San Ramon, Danville. It's not until he starts going down south that he actually starts killing people.
So this is what's so scary is did he kill someone in 1986 in Irvine?
Yeah, in Irvine.
Yeah, so That was 3 years.
That was apparently
3 years before we moved into that house. So it was, yeah. And I think that probably a couple of things. I think because when he was younger, he was very agile and he could like jump fences and hop whatever. And he was able to get away really easily and quickly. But like the older you get, as you and I both know, we talk about all the time.
Right. Yeah. So in 1986, he was 41. Is that the age like serial killers say?
Retire.
Okay, putting the sneakers up. He got phone calls that he looked like he would leave on either this is the Sacramento County Sheriff, so I'm the East Bay Rapist, or East Side Rapist. Another one, Sacramento. It was like he was taunting them.
Yeah. That's how it felt when he would call our house, because he called all the time. And it went on for years. And it just got to the point after a while where we just like thought it was just a joke, and we'd just be like, okay, whatever. Oh, it's him again. It's the heavy breather again, the weird heavy breather again.
So yeah,
probably one of the reasons why, I don't know, like maybe that saved us.
Right, yeah, maybe it did. So he was arrested April 24th, 2018 after investigators used investigative genetic genealogy to link crime scene DNA to his distant relatives on public genealogy databases. In 2020, he pleaded guilty to 13 counts of first-degree and 13 counts of kidnapping to avoid the death penalty.
I was just looking at some of my old notes and stuff, and I was looking at, again, that Saturn-Mars conjunction, and Saturn is retrograde. So I feel like there was some kind of like internalized shame. And rather than, but I think it was like shame around some sort of weird sexual power thing that he had after years of therapy, and like realizing and understanding there is no worse feeling than the feeling of shame. That shame had to have been enormous. It was that Jupiter square. So it was so huge. It was like overwhelming. And yeah.
I just wonder too if I'm trying to think, being at such a young age and seeing your sister, which he said he was taking care of all the kids. So it's like his kid being by these two adults that you can't do anything about. And it's probably just so embedded in your brain. And then you end up visually becoming one of those people visually. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that he watched these grown, probably white dudes, sister, and then that's what he becomes. He becomes a grown-ass white man.
Yeah.
And he ends up being like the predator of my sister. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think, obviously, like he's not connecting those dots, but I think that, again, so Leo, what is that? That's look at me, look at me, look at me. And he sent all of those voice messages to different like police stations and stuff. And so he wanted somehow to be known for like his power over others sexually, because that's the eighth house is all about taboo subjects. And Liz Green has in the Saturn book the battleground for the planets, and in particular battleground around sex.
Man.
Yeah, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he would do some really weird things too with his.
What was that thing with the plates?
He would stack plates on the back of the husband and basically say, I'm going to your wife, and if I hear you make a sound, I'm going to kill you. Or kill her, or you're going to have to watch me kill her.
Oh my God.
There's some sick shit like that.
If I'm right, weren't the ages of his victims like all over the place? It wasn't like it was just adults?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think it was like, teenage girls. He liked teenage girls a lot, which that's what we were when we were living there.
This is December 1977. Someone claiming to be the East Bay Rapist sent a poem, Excitement's Crave, to the Sacramento Bee, the Sacramento Mayor's Office, and the television station KVIE. On December 11th, a masked man eluded pursuit by law enforcement personnel after alerting authorities by telephone that he would strike on Watt Avenue that night. So this is the poem. Oh, those mortals surviving birth, upon facing maturity, take inventory of their worth to prevailing society. Choosing values becomes a task. Oneself must seek satisfaction. The selected route will unmask character when plans to action. accepting some work to perform at fixed pay but promise for more is a recognized social norm as a decorum seeking lore.
Okay, so really fast, see how he's basically, I feel like it's a commentary on society and
Right.
and his grandiose feelings about like how he knows so much about society. That's his Uranus in Gemini. Again, those little bursts of communication, Gemini, putting things out that is directly that is making a trine to his Chiron Jupiter conjunction. So it's like he's got this inflated, because he thinks that he knows better than anybody, he's going to send out these letters, Gemini, communication,
Right.
that's going to cause chaos and disruption.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, and then achieving while others lifting should be cause for deserving fame. Leisure tempts excitement seeking. What's right and expected seems tame. Jesse James has been seen by all, and Son of Sam has an author. Others now feel temptation's call. Sacramento should make me an author.
Okay, see? And then at the same time, he's got this stellium, Venus, Jupiter, Chiron, Neptune in the 10th house. Like, he wants to be famous. He
Right.
wants to be famous. He wants to be huge. He wants to be big. But the way that he's going about it is so...
Right. Then he says, to make a movie of my life that will pay for my planned exile. Just now I'd like to add the wife or a mafia lord to my file. Your East Area Rapist and deserving pest. See you in the press or on TV. In that too, rhyming, but I don't know how you ever get over being in your most safest, vulnerable
Right.
place, your home, and some motherfucker comes in and worse, if you're dead, it doesn't matter, but you or just burglarizes you and you're still alive and you have to live on this planet for another 50 years with
And
that.
he would call people afterwards
Afterwards
and
to
leave
say-
messages.
yeah.
That was why when I heard that one message that he left for that one woman who's saying, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, and then he was breathing really heavy, that's when I recognized him because of how exaggerated it. Fuck
All
this
right.
guy.
Yeah, fuck this guy. So he's 80 years old, in prison. Obviously, he's not going to see the light of day. Still doesn't bring those people back.
Yeah.
Still unnecessary death, unnecessary violence,
Yeah.
ruined people's lives. To your point, hey, that's fine if you're into kink. No judgment.
No.
But it's, come on, man.
Get
Get
or
her-
do it safely.
Or do it safely.
There's
you know,
safe ways to enact your fantasies.
And once again, I think this guy wanted to do what he wanted to do, not giving a fuck if he was going to disrupt anyone's lives or future. It was all about him. Just a narcissistic fuck. Hey, this is what I need. Too bad if it ruined your life. You should be happy I didn't kill you.
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Again, that big sense of that grandiose sense of, especially because like his Jupiter and Venus are within 10 degrees of each other too. It's like he should be on stage. He should be in front of people, and it's like he's saying it in his poem. Like they should offer me, they should make a movie about me.
Become a karaoke singer. You don't have to be good.
There's so many other things that this person could have
So
done.
many other things.
Yeah.
So many other things.
To reflect the energy that is inherent in him from birth.
This is the East Area Rapist.
Yeah.
Fuck this guy.
Fuck this guy.
Hopefully he'll be dead soon.
Yeah.
He's already 80.
I think it'll happen soon.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Well,
We'll see you
next week, yeah.
our next episode of the Astrology, the Underworld Podcast. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Bye.